everybody, this is BrawlFan1, or BJ if you prefer, and today I'm going to be talking about the mistakes and issues of the first 10 characters that I've made Smash movesets for. So for those who weren't present, or just didn't know about it, I did do a live stream where I talked with you guys about this very subject for all 20 characters one at a time, so I could get a good idea of what were most of the common issues so I could address them. And for this video, this will kind of be an abridged version of that stream where I go over each character's issues one at a time as well. This is based off of things that were brought up during the live stream, common things that I've seen brought up in comments, or just things that I've noticed myself. So if there is something that you feel should have been brought up during this video that I do not bring up, that just means that not a whole lot of people really think or care much about that specific issue, and I don't think it's that much of an issue for me to bring up myself. That doesn't make your opinion any less valid. Just remember that I also have my own opinions, and that everybody else also has their own opinions. A bunch that may agree with my opinions, and a bunch that don't. But ultimately, it won't really matter for this video. I will not be remaking any of the 20 character moveset videos, and with only a few personal exceptions, I will not be changing any of the characters' moves simply because a few of you want changes or have your own ideas. Again, you have your own ideas and opinions, and that's fine. I love reading them. But I'm not going to bring up every single one. We'd be here all day if I did that. So let's go ahead and get this started with character number 1. The first major thing that I'll bring up with Jibanyan was an editing mistake on my part. I forgot to include the up tilt for Jibanyan's moveset. That was my bad. I can give any reason or excuse for me doing that, but ultimately in the end, I still forgot about it, so again, my bad. And what's sad? I had the doodle for it drawn, and I even had the line for it in the script, and yet I still somehow missed it when recording the lines, and then never caught that I didn't record it during the editing, leading to me missing it entirely. As for what it was a simple backwards to forwards headbutt. The only other thing I feel needs to be addressed for Jibanyan was the gimmick, where Jibanyan would change into one of its other 3 forms depending on what kind of attack Jibanyan gets hit by. A lot of people showed that they didn't really care for that, and ultimately the moveset itself does not need the gimmick for it to still function, so it could just be removed. I still like it myself, but overall this is a fan idea, so it really doesn't matter in the long run if I choose to remove or change stuff for movesets, so long as it still fits into the character's theme. And that will be the same case for all movesets that I talk about later in this video. I will, however, give a shout out to Complete Crisis, who gave a pretty reasonable suggestion for the gimmick. And it would be that Jibanyan would need to get hit by a certain type of attack a few times in one stock and not just once before they transform. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and can work pretty well. So again, shout out to Complete Crisis for that idea. Overall, for Mimikyu, no one really had any real issues with the moveset itself, outside of some people not liking certain ideas or giving their own ideas. I will bring up one thing though, and that's the fact that Mimikyu is by itself and not on a trainer team. That's simply because I thought of Mimikyu's moveset and made the video before I thought of the Pokemon trainer ideas. If I did think of the Pokemon trainer moveset ideas before I did Mimikyu, then more than likely Mimikyu would have been put onto a trainer team as well, just to get that out of the way now. For Waluigi, there was really only one thing that I noticed a lot of people made a mention of, and that was them thinking that the up special with the warp block was way too broken. This is another one that's my fault for not fully explaining it, but I will say that the best way to balance this kind of move would be to make it have a pretty short range, only going maybe a little bit more than half the distance of Mewtwo's teleport. So even if the move was used to edgeguard somebody and teleport them off the stage, majority of the characters would be able to make it back no problem. The only other thing is less of an issue that you guys had, and more so one of the few things that I actually wish I did differently, and that's for the aerial attacks, specifically his forward, back, and down airs. In the video, I said that the aerials could be based off of dance moves, but then didn't really do that well. About a week after I posted the Waluigi moveset video, I thought of a whole new idea for the aerials, and I'm kicking myself for not thinking of them sooner. For the forward, back, and down airs specifically, they can be made based off of tricks that we see Waluigi do when jumping off of ramps in Mario Kart. This actually works pretty well, as he does do some dance poses when he does this, plus they are aerial poses. The forward air can have him do a opposing kick, with the kick that can actually hurt opponents swinging forwards from low to slightly high, one of his tricks that he does when he's on carts. The back air can have him flip upside down, then do a pose that involves him kicking one of his legs backwards from high to low, with this attack being capable of spiking if it sweet spots. This is a trick that he does specifically on motorcycles. And the down air can have Waluigi flip upside down and pose again, but this time have him spin a couple of times while holding this pose. Another trick that he does while on a cart. But this could also very well be a parallel to Wario's down air as well, so this works well in more ways than just one. Those were the ideas that I wish I thought of before I finished the video, but it's whatever. Like I said, these are fan videos. It's not like when I post a moveset, then that's it can't change. I'm sure I'll have even more ideas in the future for old sets, and then there are of course you guys' ideas. Speaking of which, I do want to give another shout out, this time to the user Kerboboy, who gave me an idea during the live stream for another idea for Waluigi's Final Smash. He suggested that I incorporate Waluigi's pinball stuff somehow, and that gave me a really funny idea that I think would be a lot more fitting than simply having him use his Striker's super attack. It could be a cinematic Final Smash that would have Waluigi somehow shrink and trap the caught foes into a pinball machine and have them rack up damage while inside the machine. But then he just ends up losing the game anyway, so he just gets angry and flips the pinball table, which is what would end the Final Smash and launch the opponents away when they're set free. I think this idea works a lot better since it emphasizes Waluigi being Luigi's dark counterpart and that things don't usually go his way, which is why he resorts to getting angry or just cheating all the time. Shantae is another character that not a lot of people really had any issues with outside of their own opinions and ideas. The only big thing that sometimes does get brought up, and like one or two people did also bring this up during the stream as well, is the gimmick involving the magic meter. Of course, some people just don't want it there at all, and I'm pretty sure that a good chunk of people who said that are just folks who want their characters to be more conventional based on the language in their comments. Well, sorry, but Smash is not a conventional fighting game in the slightest. Regardless, it could be removed. The only thing would be that the specials would need to get adjusted, and the down special would need to get changed as well. A lot more people, however, I noticed said that they do like the idea of the meter, they just think that it should be adjusted. More so in favor of it either depleting slower, or just being able to charge itself up way faster. Those are fair suggestions, and yeah, it probably could be adjusted. I just have to think about how to properly do so a little more. Klonoa really only has one issue that a lot of people bring up about him, and that's that no one seems to even know who he is. I guess now it makes sense why he has the least amount of views compared to all the other characters. But aside from things that make Brian sad, no one really had any issues with the moveset itself, looks like. First things first. At the beginning of the Pokemon Trainer Johto video, I said that there were 109 Pokemon that existed at the time of me recording that. That's obviously not true. I meant to say 809. That was just my speech impediment getting the better of me again, and me not catching that verbal mistake in editing, and I didn't notice it at all until it was pointed out to me in the comments the day of its upload. So yes, obviously there were 809 Pokemon at the time of me recording that, from Bulbasaur to Melmetal. There are of course 812 now with the Galar starters being added, but that's beside the point. There were never 109 Pokemon, the first generation had 151. And to anyone who actually thought that I meant to say 109 and not 809, I feel you aren't giving me enough credit. You can make fun of me for my editing mistakes or lack of perceptions to mistakes all you want though, that's fair game. If I didn't catch it, then have all the fun you want and I'll laugh with you. As for the actual moveset itself, not many people really seem to have an issue with it. What most people do have an issue with, however, is the lineup of Pokemon given to the Johto trainer. Totodile, Bayleaf, and Typhlosion. And it's not the Pokemon themselves they have an issue with, it's the fact that their types and stage match the Pokemon trainers in Smash. First stage Water, second stage Grass, third stage Fire. A good chunk of you don't seem to like that lineup. Well, I will just say this for those who didn't seem to pay attention to the beginning of the video. I chose those three based off of a poll that I did on Twitter back before I really got this series off of the ground. So I didn't choose them. They were democratically chosen. And it's going to be the same deal for all future protagonist trainers that use starter Pokemon. And I'm not going to sway things just for the sake of being different, because then what would even be the point of doing the polls at all? I wanted to do something that involved you guys' input, and that's just how it turned out. And that's how it also happened to turn out for the Hoenn trainer as well. And as just a heads up, based on the polls that I have going on at the time of this recording for Sinnoh, it looks like that's how it's going to end up again. So it actually seems to me that a lot of you who don't like first stage Water, second stage Grass, and third stage Fire are actually in the minority. If you want to prove me wrong, then be my guest. There's a link to the community page with all the polls still ongoing in the description below. Anyways, one thing about the Johto trainer that I would actually change is their Final Smash. As I mentioned in the Hoenn trainer video, I do think that it looks really hokey looking back at it. As for what I'd change it to, I really don't know right now. Some people during the stream gave their own suggestions, like having the trainer bring out a Johto legendary like Suicune, Lugia, or Ho-Oh, and those could work, but right now I just don't know. Just know that I would change it to something better if I could think of a better idea. In any which case, I do actually want to give another shout out to a user who gave another really cool idea for this moveset that I'd like to tell you guys about. This was suggested by one Trayton Davis, and he suggested a way to improve the down throw that I gave to Typhlosion. To recap, Typhlosion's down throw was a simple body slam after putting the foe on the ground, similar to Bowser's down throw. But Trayton suggested that while it does that, it could erupt its neck flames to propel itself forwards to give its body slam some real oomph. Now that sounds like a down throw with a lot more impact, and it fits Typhlosion perfectly well. So again, shout out to Trayton Davis for that suggestion. That's just another reason why I love doing this series of videos. I get to share my ideas, and to hear your ideas as well. Just remember that there will be some ideas that I like, and others that I don't. That's just how opinions work, just like how you guys are allowed to not like mine. Oh boy! Frisk. The character with currently my second highest view count, only behind Papyrus and Sans. You guys just really want to see Undertale and Smash, don't ya? But as such, a huge amount of comments and opinions are still shared. Let me talk about some of the cosmetic Undertale stuff first that I see most often before I get into anything with the moveset itself. The biggest question I get asked: why doesn't Frisk turn into Kara when they go into genocide mode? And I have just one answer for that. They do. But only in mind, not appearance. In Undertale, when you instigate the genocide run, we begin to see hints that Frisk is no longer the person they were, but somehow instead, Kara. More than likely because the flower patch that Frisk falls into at the beginning of the game, I believe is in fact Kara's grave, where Toriel buried them after taking their corpse from the castle when she left. So I guess some weird magic death stuff happens or whatever, but regardless, as the genocide run continues, the player slowly loses control of Frisk, and that's because it's Kara taking over. But there is never at any point in the game where Frisk straight up physically turns into Kara. That's a fan thing that people do. Frisk always looks like Frisk no matter what. We just see that their mind is taken over by Kara as the genocide run progresses. And for the genocide moveset, I did what I could to try to show that while in that mode, they behave in the same way that they do during the Undertale genocide run. Very cold, non-feeling, but with just a hint of cynical moments. And I tried to bring it home by giving them a victory animation that has Frisk do the jump scare Kara face. So if you feel I didn't emphasize that enough or made it too subtle, then that's my bad. But for those who actually wanted me to turn Frisk into Kara physically, that's not what happens in Undertale, so that's not what I'm going to do for the moveset. I do not want to include non-canon stuff in these movesets. Plus, if you guys wanted to play as Kara so badly, I did give Frisk an alternate color with Kara's colors. So I think I said my piece on that. But now that I brought up the colors, let me get into that, as that is another big thing that I see people making comments about. A lot of people have said that the alternate colors for Frisk should have made reference to the other 6 human souls, even going as far to say that the colors should include the various equipment that corresponds to each soul. And you know what I have to say to that? I agree. I 100% agree. That should have been what I did for the colors for Frisk, and I'm kicking myself for not thinking of that first. It's just such an obvious thing to do. So yeah, I agree. Anyways, the next biggest thing that I see people have issues with regarding Frisk's moveset, of course, the gimmick. The 3 different modes in general, I should say. So the biggest thing about it that people worry about would be getting to the pacifist or genocide modes at all based on how I described its speed. Now I want to give another shout out to somebody who made another really great suggestion for help with this issue, but unfortunately it was a while ago when they suggested it and I never wrote down their username. And I have not been able to find it in the literal ocean of comments the Frisk video now has. So I apologize, dude. But after I talk about the suggestion, please let me know who you are so I can thank you properly. And I hope you guys will be honest and try not to claim the suggestion as if you were the ones that made it when you didn't, because once I have your username, it'll be very easy for me to find out if you're lying or not. And if you are lying, that's a block. Anyways, they suggested that the morality bar should be adjusted based on the rule set of the current match. And it was this suggestion which was the big reason why I made Papyrus's HP meter scale with the rule set the way I did, because of this suggestion for Frisk's morality bar. To summarize, the bar itself would change its speed depending on the current rule set. So if you play in stock matches, the more stocks there are, the slower the bar would move. So less stocks would make it move faster. The same would be applied to timed matches or stamina matches. The more time or stamina there is, the slower the bar would move. Though when bringing that up, I do see a lot of people say that you should get those modes sooner rather than later in a match. If you specifically dedicate yourself to a side, then yes, that's fair. My whole thing about the gimmick as a whole is how it themes to Undertale. If you want to get a certain mode, then you have to work for it. You have to be determined. That's literally the whole point. If you stay determined to your path and playstyle, then your desired mode will be rewarded to you. Now, as for the pacifist and genocide modes themselves, a lot of people show concerns about these movesets either being too broken and strong, or not good enough and unplayable. But it seems mixed on actually which it is. So, too strong or too weak? No one can seem to agree. That just tells me that more than likely I didn't explain the movesets well enough, and that would be my bad. So allow me to try again real quick. Pacifist mode would be a very safe moveset that would be hard to get KOs on, but would also have a hard time getting KOs itself. But that doesn't mean that it can't get kills. It'd be no different than characters like Sheik, Toon Link, or Joker without his persona. They can do a lot, but they themselves have a hard time getting kills unless you get your opponent to a higher than normal damage percent, or just through some other means that take advantage of the character's tools. Remember, Smash is not a conventional fighting game. If you try to use every single character in the exact same way, you'll be losing most of the time. Every character requires certain kinds of tactics and skills to be used at their best. That's just how it works. And on another note for pacifism, some people seem to think that you can't get any KOs at all to fill it towards pacifism. That's just not true. I never once said that. It fills towards pacifism automatically by itself for as long as you don't land basic attacks, which represent the fight command, and landing special attacks will fill it up even more. You can also throw opponents without it affecting the morality meter at all so long as you don't pummel. Of course, that doesn't mean you can't use basic attacks. You very much can and still get pacifist mode. You just need to make sure you're prioritizing the specials. The way I see it, getting KOs does not equal kills for genocide unless you get a KO with a basic attack. Getting KO with a special attack can be seen as sparing. Now as for genocide mode, the most common complaint I see about it is that it's too boring or uninspired. That's the point. Remember what goes on during a genocide run. There's nothing special, there's no fun dialogue, and it's a total slog thanks to the grinding you're required to do to even do the run at all. Remember what Sans says during the run? If you continue the track you're on, you're going to have a bad time. He's not just talking about the super hard fights you have with himself or Undyne. He's talking about the entire run as a whole. All you do is press the fight button. That's it. There's no fun or interesting methods to take down enemies. All you do is hit fight and maybe press the item command here and there. There aren't even any puzzles to do in the overworld anymore. They all get ignored. And after a bit, you become so strong that the normal fights aren't even a challenge, since you're just one-shotting everyone. And it's not like there are any new fun attacks or other means of fighting to vary things up. It's just pressing one button and doing a simple timing minigame to determine the strength of the attack. That's it. The genocide run was purposefully made to be uninspired, a slog to go through, and overall just not fun. Which is the point. Killing is bad, and if you do nothing but kill everybody, you're going to have a bad time. Not just at certain points, but throughout the whole journey. That's why the moveset looks as boring as it does, but that doesn't mean the moveset itself is bad. Just like how Frisk gains a high amount of strength and power as they gain more love during the genocide run, Genocide Frisk would also be very strong as well. That's another reason why I compared it to Little Mac. Not just because of the bad recovery, but because they have a very basic looking moveset. But all of their attacks are really fast and hit very hard. And regarding the recovery as well, a lot of people didn't like that I made Genocide mode have a terrible recovery. Well, I did that as a direct contrast to Pacifist mode's amazing recovery, but there's a reason thematically why I did that as well. I said in the video that I gave Genocide mode a terrible recovery as a nod to how you can never recover the pacifist ending when you do the Genocide run. But here's what I should have said instead. When you choose the route of Genocide, people would say that you've fallen from grace. Does that make sense? Anyways, I hope I got the point across. But if there is anything you still don't understand, please feel free to ask. I think I've been on Frisk long enough. There were of course some other stuff, but I don't think they were really that big a deal to bring up, as they do just boil back down to opinions and whatnot. The only major hiccup that I made in the Shadow moveset video was when I brought up the origin of the Lightspeed dash. I said that the Lightspeed Dash originated in the same game as Shadow, which was Sonic Adventure 2. This is false. It actually was first shown in Sonic Adventure 1, not Adventure 2. And I think the only reason why I made this mistake was because I just straight up forgot that the Lightspeed Dash was in SA1 at all. And in my defense, it's so situational in that game. It's not surprising that I forgot it was there. Unlike in SA2 where it was way better integrated into the moves and was used way more often. Aside from that actual mistake on my end, the only other thing that I see people complain about was the moveset is more trivial than anything else. It's that some people say that I should have made the Chaos Control as up special, not as down special. Well, ultimately that was my decision, and I thought it would be better as a down special. Plus, I thought it would make for a fun little nod, being that the only other character in Smash to have a teleport for a down special is Meta Knight, the edgy Kirby, so it makes sense that the edgy Sonic should have the same thing. Gags aside, again, it's all a matter of opinion, and based on how I built the attack, to me it made more sense as a down special. Ultimately, it's semantics, and it really doesn't matter whether it's an up special, down special, or even a side special. It would still function the same, and in the end, it's all down to opinion where you would prefer it. But it was my video, I made it, so in my opinion, that's what I preferred. And again, you're entitled to disagree with that, just like how I'm entitled to disagree with you. Also, no guns. I didn't give Shadow guns because he only used those for one game, and he has a lot more interesting things that he can do aside from just guns. If you want guns that badly, go play Joker or Bayonetta. Banjo was another one that not a lot of people really had any major common issues with. There was one thing I did see a bit of, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the moveset itself. Some people were concerned about what would Kirby do if he were to copy Banjo. Since Kirby copies neutral specials, and Banjo's neutral special that I gave him only changes what egg ammo he uses for his side special, which by itself is useless. There's a simple answer to this. Kirby would just use the default side special instead, just like what Kirby does when he copies Captain Olimar in Smash, since Olimar is the only character with a neutral special that is not an attack by itself. Also, Kirby would only shoot the default blue eggs, and that's it. And finally, to end this video off, Giovanni. So there are really only two big things that people talk about when it comes to the Giovanni moveset. The first is, why didn't I make Persian one of the playable Pokemon, notably in place of Kangaskhan or whatnot? And the second is that people don't really like that I made the three Pokemon be of similar body type, and not diversify them like they are with Red and Smash. Well, I can actually answer both of those concerns with one answer. Let me ask you guys this. Among the villains playable in Smash, what is one thing that they all have in common with their movesets? The answer is that they're all heavy. Bowser, Ganondorf, K. Rool, all of them. Even some of the other villains that aren't as heavy are still heavier than the majority of the characters from their own franchise. Like how Wolf is really only a middleweight, but he's still much heavier than the other characters from the franchise he's from. So my logic was that since Giovanni is seen as the main Pokemon villain, or at least the most iconic one, and Pokemon doesn't really have a proper villain represented in Smash if you don't count Mewtwo, which most people don't, I figured it would be most appropriate to have Giovanni be classified as a super heavyweight character as well, giving him only Pokemon that are considered super heavy. That of course doesn't mean they're all exactly the same. I even said in the video that they'd still have different attributes, they'd just not be as drastic compared to say Squirtle to Charizard. And this of course goes into why I didn't include Persian. Persian isn't heavy, so it wouldn't have worked for the heavyweight villain theme that I wanted to go for. Plus, I consider his Persian more of a lap pet more than a Pokemon he's used for battle. Yes, he uses it for battle on a few occasions, but I still think it works better if Persian remains a lap pet. Though, and to give another shout out, Ditto Master 6 during the stream even suggested having Persian sit by Giovanni in the background. That I think is a neat idea to incorporate, that way it's more than just a victory animation. I know that's not actually what some of you actually want Persian playable, but in the end, for my movesets, it's my decisions. If you want to see a playable Persian, I can give it to a different trainer if enough people request it, or you can make your own moveset. In the end, not all of you are going to agree with what Pokemon I choose to give to trainers, whether present ones or in the future. But in the end, like I've said numerous times, it all boils down to opinion. And that does it! Those are all of the things that I wanted to address for the first 10 What If Smash movesets. I'll do characters 11 to 20 in a separate video, since this one was getting kinda long as is. Now again, I know there are a lot of things that individuals have brought up, but like I said, I really only wanted to talk about the stuff that a lot of people have brought up, as well as mistakes in the videos themselves, whether they were misinformation or editing mistakes. If I brought up every single little thing that every one person said, this video would be way longer than it already is. Also, I guarantee you that I'd be given the same answers for a lot of them anyways. So if you have any other questions about anything that I didn't bring up in this video, feel free to ask me about them, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. And again, this video was only for characters 1 to 10. A video for characters 11 to 20 is coming, so you could expect that soon if you specifically wanted to talk about one of those characters. Or if you'd rather just hear about them right now, check out the livestream that I did for this subject beforehand. I have all the characters timestamped and we talked about them all in order, so you should have no issue navigating to a certain character if you want. And of course, if you have any more characters that you would like to request to be given a possible Smash moveset, let me know in the comments as well, or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFan1 on Twit. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Take care!